Have you ever just stood there looking at a huge mountain range or a giant flat plain and thought to yourself, how in the world did this get here? Well, the amazing variety of landscapes on our planet is definitely no accident. It's actually the result of this epic, ongoing struggle that's been happening for billions of years. And today, we're going to dive right into that story.
So let's just start with a really basic question. If gravity is pulling everything towards the center, why isn't our planet just some perfectly smooth, featureless ball? Why do we have these incredible, towering peaks and these deep, plunging valleys? Well, the answer lies in a really powerful and absolutely relentless conflict.
And this, right here, is the heart of our story. On one side, you've got the builders. These are these incredibly powerful forces coming from deep inside the Earth, and they are constantly pushing, lifting, and creating massive new things. And then, on the other side, you have the sculptors. These are the relentless forces on the surface just working day and night to wear down, carve, and reshape everything the builders just made.
Yeah, this constant back and forth, this tug of war, means our planet is anything but still. It's a living, restless world where the ground right under our feet is always moving, even if we can't feel it. So, to really get a handle on this, we first need to figure out what exactly is being built and sculpted.
The term for all these features is a landform. It's really just any natural shape on the Earth's surface. We're talking everything from the Himalayas to the Great Plains. These are the incredible creations we're going to explore. So let's go meet the first character in our little drama.
All right, let's meet the builders. Think of them as the powerful architects working from inside the planet. They're the ones responsible for all the big initial construction of our world's largest features. They create the raw material, the giant block of marble, that the sculptors will then get to work on.
Okay, so this chart might look a little complicated, but let's just break it down. It's simpler than it looks. Just focus on those two main branches at the very top. See on the left, you've got the endogenic forces. Yep, these are our builders, the ones working from inside the Earth. And you can see that branch splits again, which just shows us there are a couple of different ways they do their work, which we're about to get into right now.
So what's powering these builders? Well, it's immense heat, radiating from the Earth's core. This incredible heat keeps the layer just beneath the crust, the asthenosphere, in this sort of semi-molten, slushy state. Our tectonic plates are literally floating and drifting around on this layer, and it's their movement that builds all the major landforms.
And what's the most spectacular thing these builders create? Mountains, of course. They are just the ultimate expression of the Earth's internal power. But, not all mountains are built in the same way.
So the first type of building force is called orogenic, which literally comes from the Greek for mountain building. Now, the key word to remember here is horizontal. These forces act like a giant vise, just squeezing the Earth's crust from the sides.
And this picture shows perfectly what happens. As two tectonic plates push against each other, the crust just can't take the pressure, so it buckles and wrinkles, kind of like a rug you push from both ends. The upward folds that become the mountain peaks, those are called anticlines. And the downward parts become the valleys, or synclines. This is exactly how the great fold mountains, like the Andes and the Himalayas, were born.
Now, what I love about this slide is how it sneakily introduces our second character. Just compare the young, jagged Himalayas to the old, rounded Appalachians. What's the big difference? Well, it's time and the relentless work of the sculptors. The Appalachians have been getting worn down for hundreds of millions of years, which has smoothed out their peaks. It's a perfect sneak peek of the forces of erosion we're about to meet.
Okay, the second builder force is eperogenic, or continent building. Now, unlike that sideways squeeze of the orogenic forces, these guys act vertically. They push huge blocks of the crust straight up, or sometimes cause them to drop straight down. So this is less about wrinkling and more about cracking and big shifts.
Let's look at the diagrams here to see exactly how this works. See the arrows? They show the crust being pulled apart. So in the diagram on the right, when that block of land in the middle drops down between two big cracks, or faults, it creates a rift valley. Geologists have a cool name for it, a graben. But if the central block gets pushed upwards, like in the picture on the left, it forms a block mountain, or what's called a horst.
So the builders have done their thing. They've raised up these massive mountains and lifted entire continents. The stage is set. Now it's time for the sculptors to take over. These are the external forces that start reshaping and refining those creations the very moment they appear.
These forces are called exogenic, which just means they originate from the outside. And these are the things you see every day. The flowing water of a river, the grinding power of a giant glacier, the constant push of the wind, even just the slow, steady cycle of water freezing and thawing. They are the artists of erosion.
But, and this is so important, the sculptors aren't just destructive. Yeah, sure, they wear down mountains through weathering and erosion, but they don't just destroy that material. They pick it up, they carry it somewhere else, and then they deposit it to create entirely new landforms. It's this amazing cycle of destruction and creation.
So, let's see this partnership in action. How do the builders and the sculptors work together, or, against each other, to create the other major landforms on our planet, like plateaus and plains?
Let's take a look at this chart. You can almost think of it like a family tree for landforms. You see the main branches up top from mountains, plateaus, and plains. This just shows us how all these different features are connected through the very processes of building and sculpting that we've been talking about.
Plateaus are just a fantastic example of teamwork. First, the builders, through things like volcanic lava flows or continent-building uplift, create this huge elevated tableland. Then the sculptors, especially rivers, get to work carving deep canyons and valleys into the surface. That's what gives a plateau its signature rugged look.
And plains? Well, you could say they're often the final masterpiece of the sculptors. I mean, all that rock and soil that was eroded from the mountains has to go somewhere, right? Rivers and wind carry all those tiny bits of sediment downstream, and then they just drop them, layer after layer, over these huge low-lying areas. And that process, that deposition, creates the fertile, flat expanses we call plains.
So we've got this endless cycle of building up and wearing down. It's a fascinating story, for sure. But you might be wondering, why does this matter to me? Well, the answer is, it matters a lot.
I mean, really think about it. These landforms are basically the stage where all of life happens. Mountains like the Himalayas literally create entire climate systems. They store fresh water in glaciers that then feed the world's great rivers. They create thousands of different habitats, which allows for incredible biodiversity. And all this geologic pushing and pulling brings valuable minerals and fuels closer to the surface for us to use. They are, quite simply, the foundation of our world.
And that leaves us with one last kind of mind-blowing thought. This whole process, it never stops. The builders are still pushing out mountains, and the sculptors are still wearing them down. As we speak, a river is carving a valley just a tiny bit deeper, and tectonic plates are moving a centimeter closer together. The Earth is a living, breathing work of art, constantly being reshaped. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What masterpiece are they creating right now?